Hello everyone, and thanks for tuning into today's second video. So this is your second spring, all twos. This is your second spring 2024 update, and yes, it's time to bring you more spring data, and we're up to update number 2 now with our spring update. So I shall get on that for you in a second. Just to say that first video sales are 6 AM UK weather forecast. Got 10 to 14 day with all of the regular features coming up this afternoon, and then we'll be live at 6 PM with ensembles, watch at 12Z. All of that stuff, that's to come at 6 PM. Please like, share, subscribe on all of today's videos and content. And thank you so much for doing that. Thank you so much, Richard. Thank you so much, Rich, for our lovely spring updates. Given our 2 little bundles of fluff who have replaced Fluffy. We announced last week that Fluffy is out. She's out from GavsWeatherVids, and she's out of her apartment in LA. All sorts of rumours have been going around about what's going on with Fluffy, but the last I heard is that she's put out on the streets, and Richard tells me that she's on the run, actually, on the run in LA. She's stacked up a load of debts. I think she might be in debt with the mob, I don't know, but I think she's on the run anyway in LA, and or probably in America. You know, she's probably gone from LA now. And as soon as I have more news about Fluffy and what's going on with her, I'll let you all know. But it's not been a very good start to 2024 for Fluffy. Anyway, thanks for showing me the amazing Richard Trott for our lovely spring updates gift. Our 2 little bundles of Fluffy. We're going to be naming those in a couple of weeks, so get your thinking caps on. Now, a couple of suggestions already I noticed last week, Paul and Steph. But no, thank you so much, Richard, for that. And thank you so much, Shrine Brew, as well, for all of the help on the video, getting the years together. So thank you so much, hashtag Team Gav, Rich and Shrine, working away, as always, for us with the long range. Okay, well, with that said, let's start our second spring update bit. Why not do that? So we're going to be looking at autumn to spring data for this one. Makes it a little bit difficult, this, because we've got like 2 years crossing over with one another. So at some point, probably very often through this, I'm going to get the autumns and the springs mixed up. But it should be relatively straightforward to follow. This was CT page from the UK Met. Had to go all the way back to 1659 with that, but we want to come down to the last year. That's what we're interested in, 2023. And we see that September had a CT of 17.0, October, which is warmest September on record, October at 12.1, very mild month, a little bit cooler for September, 7.4, but still above average. And that means that autumn 2024 was actually a top 10 warmest autumn for the CT on record. So, very simply, it should be, see how I get on with it, we are, because I had a couple of goes at this, it hasn't gone very well up to this point, but very simply, we're going to be looking at springs following the top 10 warmest autumns. So, at number 10, countdown basically, you know the countdown at GavsWeatherVids, turn off. So, yes, at number 10, now this should be easy to follow. Number 10, we've got autumn 2001, and so what we're looking at here is the spring of 2002 at number 10. Oh, Maggie's down. We've got low pressure in the Atlantic. I like a bingo caller sometimes with these videos, aren't I? Anyway, we've got 2002. Spring 2002 is a mild and quite unsettled spring. No, they're not. I can't really think of any cold snaps through that spring, actually. It's very, very mild, quite warm spring. They're having 2002, but often quite unsettled. At number 9, we've got autumn 2009. So the 9th warmest autumn for the CT is 2009. So the spring of 2010, following that autumn, looks like this. Mid-Atlantic ridge with blocking up towards Greenland, low pressure to east southeast winds in from the north. Now, this is a cold winter, of course. 0910 is a cold winter. And very often when you have a cold winter, a great example of this is 0910 and then also 78, 79. Now, when you have a cold winter, very often that pattern does carry on into the spring. So that's what we see there. It was a colder spring in 2010. I think there's even some snow in March of 2010. Just the temperatures, so sorry, buddy. Just the temperatures a little bit suppressed in the spring of 2010. Now, at number 8, we have got 2005. So, autumn 2005 is our 8th warmest autumn. Spring 2006 is a little bit colder as well, with some higher pressure around Greenland, low pressures to our east, winds coming in from a north or a northeasterly direction. Has quite a long cold snap from late February into the first half of March 2006. April 2006 is quite cold as well, and then we get a very wet May. A pretty dismal spring 2006, of course, followed by a very hot summer. At number 7, we've got 1960. The spring of 1960 looks like that, anticyclonic with high pressure over Scandinavia and winds in from the east. That's quite a warm, dry spring. I think it could have a dry April. At number 6, we've got 2022. So the spring 2022 has high pressure sitting to our east and winds coming up southeasterly direction. That has a lot of warm weather as well in the spring of 2022. And then at number 5, we're top 5 now, we've got autumn 2014, which was the 5th warmest autumn on record for the CET, and so that means that spring 2015 looks like this. High pressure is set to the south, low pressure is to the north, and winds coming in from westerly direction. That's relatively warm spring as well, I think, in 2015. Right, number 4. So many years from like the last decade or two, we really have had some remarkably warm autumns, haven't we? At number 4, we've got the autumn of 2022. So that's followed by spring 2023. High pressure a little bit further northwest in this spring means it is a bit cooler, especially in April. Rather coolish April. Has a very wet March, of course, wettest March since 1981, and has some snow at the beginning of it. Does have a warmer May, though. And then we're top 3 now. So at number 3, we have got 2023. And, of course, we are trying to work out what the 3rd warmest autumn could mean for spring 2024. And there's the question marks there. You'll find out when we do our spring forecast at the end of February. Right, top 2. So at number 2, we've got the autumn of 2011. The spring of 2012 looks like that. High pressure dominates through large portions of the spring. It's a very interesting spring, actually. It has a very dry, a really mild March in 2012. Then we get an exceptionally wet and quite cold April, and then we go into a warm May. And actually, the May of 2012 really is summer, because the rest of the summer of 2012 is absolutely appalling. It's terrible summer. Our last real washout summer in 2012. And so, yes, it's an interesting spring. Every month, very individual and unique. And then at number 1, I'm sure you can guess what it was. The warmest autumn for the CT was 2006. The spring in 2007 looks like that. Again, quite an interesting spring, this one. Lots of high pressure dominating with the analogue. But what you don't get that spring 2007 from that is that it did have a very wet May. So March and April are exceptionally dry and warm, very warm in April. Summer really occurs in April of 2007. And then, well, yes, we start flipping it in May. It turns much cooler and wetter. Has an exceptionally wet and cold late spring bank holiday weekend at the end of May. And then the rest of summer, especially June and July 2007, absolutely atrocious with flooding rains. Okay, so let's put all of that together then. So this is how all Marches combined are looking following the top 10 warmest autumns. Now, quite a nice signal if you want a warm, dry March. Higher pressure tending to be over and to the east of the country, lower pressure out to the west, and winds often coming up from south-easterly direction, so plenty of dry, warm weather on offer. Obviously, very years at deviating. We've got 2003, 2023, I should say, in the mix. So we know that was a very wet March. Last March, you know, it was wettest since 1981. There's always going to be exceptions and deviations, but overall, pretty warm, dry signal for those Marches. We go through to all Aprils combined. Again, high pressure is set close to the country. So a little bit more towards the west, maybe, could allow for some cooler conditions in the Aprils, but overall it's an anticyclonic signal got time with both Aprils. And then all Mays combined, just looking a little bit more unsettled, really. Lower pressure coming between Iceland and Scotland, higher pressure down towards Spain. Hold on. Oh, sorry everybody, I'm going to last at the end of the video. And winds remaining from a western, or coming from a westerly direction, so a bit more unsettled in the maze. And then finally, for this set, this is how all springs combined, following the top 10 warmest autumns looking. It's not too bad actually if you want a nice dry and relatively warm spring. Higher pressure tending to be to the north and west of Europe, so a lot of warm and dry weather will be on offer in many of those springs. Right, well, that's the first set done. That went all right, didn't have too many mistakes. Let's move on to our second set then. So we're going to be looking at England Wales precipitation actually for this set. So we find that September had 91.1 millimeters of rain, 120% of average. October was exceptionally wet with 177.6 millimeters, 173% of average, and November had 126.9 millimeters, 120% of average. And so for this second set of analogues, we're going to be looking at autumns with an England Wales precipitation range of 350 to 450 millimeters, and the springs that follow them. So that precipitation range, of course, nicely taking up the range that we had for autumn 2023. Right, so our first autumn is 1954, which means our first spring is 1955, and spring 1955 again follows quite a cold winter. Now we see that blocking signal towards Greenland, Iceland, low pressure to the east, winds coming in from a northerly direction, so there was some quite cold weather in the spring of 1955. And then we've got 1961, this is another pretty nice spring in the early part of the 1960s, with higher pressure dominating the weather across western parts of Europe. A lot of dry and often pleasant weather on offer with that one. We're not doing a countdown this time, are we? So our next spring is 1975, actually, following autumn 1974. And again, this one has high pressure out to the west, low pressure to the south and the east. Cold snaps in the spring of 1975, especially so in April of 1975. There was actually snow in April 75, very hot summer followed, of course. And then I'm talking about, we're not doing a countdown. And then we got 1977 with low pressure over Anthony. I can barely see. That's the trouble. I'm squinting at the screen and I'm virtually blind at the moment. Actually, I'm in real trouble with my eyes, I think. But anyway, you don't want to worry about my problems. So we've got 1977 coming up next, following autumn of 1976 with 350 to 440 millimeters. So that is a very unsettled wet spring that we have in 1977. Then we've got 1985 following autumn 84. This again is following a cold winter. You know, this has lots of low pressure across West Europe with a bit of a blocking signal. There were cold snaps in the spring of 1985, and it was quite a cold and wet spring following a cold and wet or probably cold winter. And then we've got 2003 showing up next. So this is a warm, dry spring. This is getting the pattern of the summer 2003 together. Lots of high pressure domination through that particular spring, and of course that carried on into the summer, and you see already certainly as the spring of 2003 we're suggesting a lot of southerly winds there, which carried on into the summer and did deliver us a hot summer. And then we've got 2013, so this is a very cold spring. High pressure up to the north, blocking around Greenland. Low pressure is over and to the south of the country, winds in an easterly direction. So particularly cold in the second half of March to early April, when it really is extraordinarily freezing cold. I mean, really, really freezing blizzards type cold. Very, very, very unusual and rare pattern that we get there in March to April 2013. We come out of that freeze up in the second half of April, but overall the temperature stays subdued right the way through the spring 2013. That's a proper cold spring. And then we've got 2020. This follows autumn 2019, of course, with that England and Wales precipitation range of 350 to 440 millimeters. And this is a relatively warm and dry spring with high pressure over the west of Europe. Right, so lastly, let's put all of that together. So this is how all Marches combined are looking following a autumn England and Wales precipitation range of 350 to 440 millimetres. High pressure tends to be blocking towards Greenland and Iceland in these Marches. Low pressure to south, winds often coming in from more of an easterly direction. So there is cold potential, actually, with some of those Marches. Of course, we've got, for example, we've got 1985 and 2013 in the mix, which were quite cold in Marches. Not all of them are cold, though, and by any means 2003 certainly wasn't, so there is exceptions to the rule, but maybe favouring colder weather in March. April looks like that, very weak signal. Higher pressure just to our southwest, probably suggesting a rather drier and milder pattern for the Aprils combined. May looks a bit grim, though we have above average heights in the Atlantic, extending up towards Iceland. Low pressure east, again, winds coming in from the north or northeasterly direction. So the May's, as I say, looking a little bit cold and wet there. And then finally, all springs combined following autumn England Wales precipitation range of 350 400 millimetres, looks like that, with high pressure around Iceland and Greenland, low pressure to our east, and winds often set from a north or a northeasterly direction. Now, two very contrasting sets of analogues there for those springs, I have to say, based on the autumn data. By far, if you want a warm, dry spring, by far the best set was the first set. The top 10 warmest autumns with CT looks a lot more mixed, I have to say, you know, for spring following the autumn England Wales precipitation range. Right, well, that's your second spring update. I hope it was all right. Please like, share, subscribe if you've enjoyed the video, and we'll be back with more next week. Don't forget, we've got your 10 to 14 day coming up for you later on this afternoon, and we're going to be live at 6 PM with Ensembles Watch, starting at 12. So I'm sure we'll throw a bit of long range in as well, given that it is a Sunday live stream. So come back at 6 PM and you'll be able to catch me live. Thank you so to Richard, thank you so much Rich, and thank you so much to Shryan as well for all of the help on this second spring update and for the second spring 2024 update. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.